Hello, bearded bee people. Welcome back to B&K Bees. I hope you can see me. I'm sure my face is shadowed and all that, but I wanted to have some bees in the background. Maybe I can go like this. So I wanted to talk a bit about queen excluders. Because there's a lot of kind of confusion about that from hobbyists as to whether you have to use queen excluders. But first, let's talk a little bit about what it is. This is a queen excluder, a plastic queen excluder. And what this is a device that is a barrier to allow worker bees through, but as the name suggests, not the queen. What that allows is obviously you to dictate where the brood is going to remain in the hive, and then therefore where everything else is going to be, mainly in terms of honey. So what we would do here is we would add this, if we were running a single brood chamber hive, we'd add this directly on top of this hive, not on top of the cover or on top of the inner cover, but directly on top of that box, and add another box on top. That box would then be declared a super, but we just call them honey boxes because we run all deeps, so we don't have those shallow supers that you think of when you think of the term honey super. So after doing that, like I said, what that allows is for you to be fairly certain, almost 100% certain, that the queen will not go up above it, and that will hopefully allow for you to extract all of the honey up above the queen excluder. Now there are some pitfalls, some downfalls to that, and one is mistakenly placing your queen above it. Another one is having a split or having a colony that is making their own queen, and then when she returns from a mating flight, if you have an upper entrance, which I very much recommend you do, she can return into the upper entrance and then be excluded from the area that you wanted your brood. So there are a couple downfalls. It's not a foolproof method, but it is very, very useful if you want at the end of the honey season to just go through your apiary and grab all the honey boxes and consider them extractable. Now, do you have to use them to have honey? No, you definitely don't. If you are able to spend a lot more time with each hive, you can manage that throughout the year by pulling honey frames up above the brood nest. And then when you've got a nice honey barrier up above the brood nest, any boxes added above that are going to stay honey because the queen is unlikely to cross any honey barrier, whether it be on the outside of the brood nest to the left or right or above. So after, kind of like I said, managing yourself a honey super, adding boxes above that are pretty sure to be only honey. Now, we used to not run queen excluders at all. In fact, this is probably, I think, the 4th year that we've been running queen excluders. And the reason that we started running them is because of the fact that we were gaining so many more hives and it became difficult to manage and to have an expected honey crop. We would go through a lot of the colonies at harvest time and realize that these honey boxes that we'd wanted to be honey were all a combination of honey and brood. So that, that allows for your colony to have a lot of honey going into winter, but it doesn't allow for you to put a whole lot of frames into the extractor when they've got brood in them. So after that disappointment 4 years ago, we decided if we were going to run that many hives, we had to start running queen excluders. So we bought a bunch of them, and unfortunately we bought a bunch of these plastic kind. So my next point on queen excluders is, if you have the money, get something more rigid than this. These don't break away from the boxes the way a box would break away from a box. Rather, they just kind of stick to everything that they're connected to, and it can become very, very difficult removing heavy honey boxes from the top of the brood nest when this thing needs to be peeled away from the boxes. So having a wood-bound queen excluder or even a metal-bound queen excluder is a lot easier in that sense, because you can break it away from the hive using your hive tool. So I definitely recommend not going the cheap route and not getting the plastic queen excluders. So the last point that I have on queen excluders is the common term that a lot of people will call them honey excluders, saying that the bees don't like to go past them. And I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that, but I would add the fact that if you have an upper entrance, the bees don't mind at all. They'll just bring the honey up to the upper entrance, store it above the queen excluder, and everything will work out just fine. But once again, that upper entrance allows for a returning mated queen, or a queen returning from a mating flight, to go into that upper entrance. So if you're setting out splits, or you have a reason to believe your queen is being superseded, be mindful of that and check above your queen excluder at about the time she should be returning from her mating flight. So yeah, upper entrances will help you not to call this a honey excluder. And I think if you follow all those things, get yourself a nice wood-bound queen excluder, make sure you have an upper entrance, make sure your queen isn't above it, that you'll have a lot of nice brood-free honey boxes. So that's my spiel on queen excluders. I hope you liked it. Thank you very much for watching. Get out there and have some fun with your bees. See ya.